What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved entertainers sits down for what should be a routine late-night interview, only to be blindsided by a host with an agenda? Tonight, we're unpacking the explosive confrontation that left audiences in shock and Jamie Foxx walking off The Late Show in the middle of a live taping. This isn't just a celebrity interview gone sideways. This is a case study in how personal vendettas and veiled attacks can unravel even the most professional relationships in real time. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments, what do you think really pushed this moment over the edge? Because what you're about to hear may change how you view late-night television forever. It was supposed to be Jamie Foxx's triumphant return, after a long and mysterious health scare had taken him out of the public eye for months. Jamie was finally back healthy, smiling, and ready to reconnect with his fans. The studio audience was electric, buzzing with genuine excitement to see him again. But the moment Jamie stepped onto that stage, something felt ... off. Stephen Colbert's introduction was noticeably distant. The usual warmth he reserved for Alex was missing. "Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Foxx," he said with a polite, almost forced tone. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Still, Jamie Ever the Pro came out beaming, full of energy, soaking up the applause like a man truly grateful to be back. "Jamie, great to have you back," Stephen said once they were seated, but the tone was flat, and Jamie felt it. "Great to be back, Stephen. Thanks for having me." "The crowd's amazing tonight," Jamie replied, trying to reset the tone. That's when it hit. "Well," Stephen said, with a smirk, "they're excited to see you alive and well." There were some questions about that for a while, weren't there? The room froze. The laughter died before it could take off. Jamie's expression shifted ever so slightly. Still calm, still collected, but now guarded. "Yeah, you know, health scares happen," he said evenly. "I'm grateful to be here. Grateful for my family, my team, everyone who stood by me during that time." But Stephen didn't let it go. "Stood by you through what exactly?" he pressed. "You've been pretty vague about the whole thing. Some people are saying you're being deliberately mysterious." For publicity, the energy in the room changed. The tension was no longer subtle, it was palpable. This wasn't playful back. This was something else. Jamie straightened in his chair, his media training kicking in. "I've shared what I'm comfortable sharing," he said. "My health, my family's privacy, that's important to me. I think people get that." But Colbert pushed further. "Do they, though? Social media has been brutal. Some are saying you faked it, that this whole thing was a PR stunt for your upcoming Netflix special and movie. The timing seems ... convenient." Jamie's jaw clenched, slightly, but enough for everyone to see. "You think almost dying is convenient?" he said, voice tightening. "You think putting my family through hell is convenient? What exactly are you trying to say, Stephen?" "I'm just asking questions your fans want answers to," Colbert replied, now fully leaning into the confrontation. "Isn't that what journalism is about?" Jamie blinked, stunned. "This isn't journalism, man. This is late night. People come here to laugh, to escape, to breathe. What you're doing right now, this isn't entertainment. This is an ambush." The audience was dead silent now. You could feel it, the collective realization that they were witnessing something real and deeply uncomfortable. But Stephen wasn't finished. "An ambush. Jamie, these are legitimate questions. Your fans deserve transparency. They supported you. They were scared for you. Don't they deserve the truth?" Jamie leaned forward, emotion finally bubbling to the surface. "The truth," he said, voice cracking just slightly. "The truth is I almost lost everything. I spent weeks not knowing if I'd ever perform again, ever act again, ever even see my kids grow up. While I was fighting for my life, people like you were spinning rumors, pushing conspiracies for ratings. People like me," Colbert shot back. "What's that supposed to mean?" Jamie stood up, not storming out. "Nice. It means people who'd rather tear someone down than lift them up. People who'd rather doubt than believe. You know what, Stephen?" He looked out to the crowd, silent, holding its breath. "I came here to say thank you, to laugh, to celebrate being alive. But I don't need to explain my pain to someone who's already decided it isn't real." And with that, Jamie turned and walked off the set. No music, no applause, just stunned silence. And Stephen Colbert, sitting alone, realizing the moment had already gone too far. So now we ask you, was this a host doing his job or a calculated hit job dressed up as just asking questions? Sound off in the comments, and don't forget, what you just saw wasn't scripted. It was a moment of truth. And sometimes the truth isn't polite. It walks off stage. These are the kinds of people Jamie Foxx was talking about, the ones who see a man at his lowest point and think that's the perfect time to strike. The ones who hide behind the mask of journalism when all they're really doing is being cruel. And as Jamie said those words, the camera caught at Stephen Colbert's face, flushing with rising frustration. I resent that implication. Jamie, he snapped, his polished demeanor beginning to crack. I've built my career on asking tough questions, on holding people accountable. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing publicity. Jamie didn't flinch. Holding people accountable for what? He shot back. For getting sick, for having a medical emergency? What exactly do you think I should be answering for? The tension in the studio had reached suffocating levels. Even the crew seemed paralyzed, camera operators hesitating, unsure whether to keep filming or cut to commercial. But Stephen wasn't finished. Maybe, he said coldly, I should be asking you what you need to be held accountable for. His tone was condescending, now weaponized, because, from where I'm sitting, it looks like a guy who disappeared the moment things got tough, left projects unfinished, left co-stars scrambling, and now wants to stroll back in like none of it happened. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Front row faces shifted from entertained to disturbed. Some looked genuinely shocked. Jamie's expression changed. The warmth vanished. What replaced it wasn't just anger, it was betrayal. Left my projects hanging, he repeated, rising just slightly in his seat. Stephen, I was in a hospital, fighting for my life. Do you even understand what that means? Do you know what it's like to wake up and not remember weeks of your life? To have doctors tell your family to prepare for the worst? I understand you had health issues, Stephen said tightly, but you're a professional. You have responsibilities. When you sign contracts, when people invest millions into your work, when hundreds of crew depend on your presence for their jobs, maybe you owe them more than radio silence. That did it. Jamie stood up, fully now, towering over Stephen, who stayed seated, clearly trying to maintain control of the interview, of the optics, of himself. Radio silence. Jamie echoed, voice colder now. My team communicated with every studio, every partner. Legal handled the contracts. Insurance handled the coverage. Everything was done professionally, just not in a way that satisfied you. Because you wanted the gory details, you wanted footage of me in a hospital bed, so you could play it behind a monologue joke. Sit down, Jamie, Stephen muttered, attempting to regain control. You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be. Jamie blinked once, then his voice dropped quiet, cutting. You want dramatic? He said, stepping forward. Dramatic is waking up with tubes in your throat. Dramatic is watching your daughter cry because she thinks she's about to lose her father. Dramatic is trying to relearn how to speak because your brain's not working the way it used to. The audience was silent, still no laughter. Coughs, just breathless tension. And still, Stephen doubled down. And yet, here you are, he said coolly, doing press, promoting a Netflix special. Funny how quickly you bounced back when money was involved. Even the band members froze, instruments untouched, eyes wide. Jamie scanned the room, saw the disappointment, the confusion, the disbelief in the crowd. They didn't come here for a show. They came for a celebration, and instead, they were watching a public execution. You know what, Stephen? Jamie said, quieter now. I came here tonight because I thought we were friends. I thought this would be fun. We'd laugh about a few stories, talk about my new projects, give the audience a good time. But that's not what this is about for you, is it? He stepped back, eyes narrowing. This isn't about the audience. This is personal. Stephen scoffed. Personal? I barely know you. No, you remember, Jamie snapped. This is about the awards show. 3 years ago. The joke you made in your speech. The one where I was the punchline. Stephen rolled his eyes. That's ridiculous. I don't even remember what you're talking about. Jamie leaned in. You remember. You brought it up to 3 different people at the after-party. You remember because ever since then, you've been throwing little jabs at me in your monologue. Your writers have been pitching jokes about me for months. And tonight, you thought you finally had your moment. The audience was riveted. This wasn't just a breakdown it was the unraveling of years of unspoken resentment. Playing out in front of millions, you're being paranoid, Stephen said, sweating now. Not everything's about you, Jamie. Jamie didn't flinch. Your own writers told my publicist about the meeting you had last week, about how you said, and I quote, "It's time to take Jamie Foxx down a peg." They were so uncomfortable with it, Stephen. They recorded it. Stephen blinked. His face fell just slightly. They recorded it, Jamie repeated. You want to talk about accountability? Let's talk about you. A talk show host using his platform to settle personal scores, the cameras scrambled to catch every second. The audience sat frozen. Every person in that room knew this wasn't just another celebrity interview. This was history. Stephen was unraveling. His trademark, wit so sharp, so rehearsed, was gone. All that remained was a man caught in a spotlight far brighter than he'd anticipated. "That's completely out of context," he stammered. "Whatever you think." "You know I know," Jamie interrupted, steady and cold. "That you spent 20 minutes in that meeting talking about how you were going to humiliate me on live television. I know that you said and. These were your exact words. Stephen, I want to make that arrogant piece of garbage squirm." Gasps rippled through the studio. A few audience members, ignoring the no recording policy, pulled out their phones. The atmosphere had shifted. This wasn't late night anymore. This was a live wire. Stephen glanced around, searching for an out. But there was no out, just Jamie standing in front of him. And a room full of people watching history unfold. "Jamie, I think you're misunderstanding the creative process," Stephen said weakly. "Sometimes, in a writer's room, we throw around ideas. They sound harsh in isolation, but Jamie cut him off. Creative process. You call planning someone's public humiliation a creative process. You call turning your show into a weapon against people who hurt your ego creative? You're twisting everything. Then tell the truth," Jamie demanded. "Right here, right now, tell these people what really happened. Tell them why you thought tonight after everything I've been through was the perfect time to come for me." Stephen opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Up in the band pit, the band leader began subtly signaling the musicians, clearly preparing for a hasty commercial break. But the producers? Frozen, staring at the monitors. Gripped by the magnitude of what was unfolding, Jamie didn't wait. "I'll tell them," he said, voice low but charged with fury. "You got embarrassed 3 years ago. I made a joke about your show during my acceptance speech, a harmless jab. Everyone laughed. Everyone moved on." He paused, "except you." The crowd was dead silent now, grudge ever since. "Taking little swings at me in your monologues, letting your writers go after me in bits, and tonight, you thought you'd finally get your revenge." "That's not true," Stephen muttered, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Oh, it's true, and everyone in this room sees it. Everyone watching at home feels it." Jamie turned to the crowd now. "You're not a journalist tonight, Stephen. You're not an entertainer. You're a bitter man with a platform, using it to tear down someone who once made you feel small." People in the front rows were visibly squirming in their seats. Some glanced toward the exits. Others stared straight ahead, transfixed. "This isn't just unprofessional," Jamie said, eyes back on Stephen. "It's personal and it's pathetic." Stephen finally found his voice, but it was thin, defensive. "I'm just doing my job, asking the questions people want answered." "No," Jamie said, cutting him off. "You're being cruel, and there's a difference. Tough questions challenge, cruelty degrades, and what you've done tonight," he leaned in slightly, "is cruelty, plain and simple." He let the words hang. "You've taken a man who nearly died, who fought his way back from the edge, who's trying to rebuild his life, and you tried to tear him down for your own satisfaction." Jamie's voice softened, but the edge was sharper than ever. "And the saddest part, I respected you." He looked down, then back at Stephen, disappointment radiating from every word. "I watched your show. I laughed at your jokes. I defended you when people said you were too political, too smug. I thought you were someone who used comedy to make the world better, not someone who uses it to make people feel worse about themselves." Stephen's face was bright red now. Sweat gathered at his temples, clearly visible under the studio lights. He looked like a man who had made a fatal miscalculation and knew it. "Jamie, I think we should take a quick commercial break."
No.
Jamie's voice cut through the room like a blade. "We're not taking a break. You wanted to do this. On live television. In front of all these people." He swept a hand toward the stunned audience. "Then we're finishing it on live television. You don't get to light the match and then run when the fire spreads." You could hear a pin drop. The air was thick with tension. The crowd wasn't just watching, they were living it. "You want to talk about accountability, Stephen?" Jamie asked. "It looks like this." He stepped forward, admitting when you've crossed a line, acknowledging when you've hurt someone for no reason other than your own bitterness. Stephen didn't respond. He couldn't. There was nothing left to say, and Jamie stood there not as an actor, not as a celebrity, but as a man who had survived something real. Only to walk into a studio and realize his biggest fight was still ahead. "Accountability," Jamie said, voice steady, gaze locked. "Looks like being man enough to apologize when you've crossed a line that should never have been crossed." "I don't think I need to apologize for doing my job, Stephen," muttered, barely audible. Jamie took a step closer. Your job is to entertain, to make people laugh, to give them a break from the darkness, not to add to it, not to weaponize your platform to settle personal scores, not to kick someone when they've already been dragged through hell." The studio had gone still. Stephen didn't move, couldn't. "But you know what my job is?" Jamie continued, his presence now consuming the stage. "My job is to bring joy, to help people forget their problems, to sing, to act, to tell stories that lift people up, not tear them down. My job is to come back from the worst thing that's ever happened to me and do it with gratitude, not resentment." He turned now, addressing the audience directly. "These people didn't come here to watch you work through your insecurities, Stephen. They didn't buy tickets or clear their night to witness your bitterness, disguised as journalism. They came to celebrate, to feel something good, to see that someone they care about, someone they missed, he's alive and doing what he loves again." Heads nodded. Some people clapped, quiet at first, then louder, growing with every word. "They deserve better," Jamie said, voice rising. "They deserve a host who lifts people up, who understands the power of humor to heal, not to hurt, who knows that a platform like this comes with responsibility, not just to advertisers, but to the people who trust you with their time." Stephen opened his mouth, but Jamie didn't let him finish. "I'm being honest, Stephen. Maybe that's something you should try. Maybe instead of ambushing guests under the excuse of tough questions, you should be honest about what this really was, your ego." Jamie picked up his glass of water, took a slow sip, and let the silence hang in the air like smoke. "You know," he said quietly, "I've been in this business a long time. I've seen stars rise, and I've watched them fall, and what I've learned, the people who last are the ones who know that success isn't about stepping on others. It's about lifting everyone up with you." He set the glass down, looked straight into Stephen's eyes. "But I've also seen what happens when people get a little power and start mistaking cruelty for intellect, when they think being the meanest guy in the room makes them the smartest." He took a slow breath. "Those people don't last, Stephen. They never do. Because eventually, people see them for what they really are." The studio was utterly silent, so still you could hear the faint hum of the stage lights overhead. Stephen looked like he wanted to disappear. "I came here tonight in good faith," Jamie said. "I came here to laugh, to share stories, to make people feel good. I thought we were friends." A pause, a shift in tone. "But you had other plans. You came to get revenge. Over a joke I made 3 years ago, a joke I don't even remember." Jamie adjusted his jacket. His eyes swept across the room. "Well, congratulations, you got it. You ambushed a man who fought his way back from death. You used your platform to try to humiliate him. You disappointed everyone in this room who expected better from you." He turned to walk off stage, then stopped, looked back. "But you know what? I'm not letting you ruin this for me." His voice cracked with passion. "I'm not letting your bitterness poison my joy. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm doing what I love. And you don't get to take that away." The applause started small, a few claps, then a wave. A rising wall of sound. People stood, row by row. By the time Jamie reached the band, the entire studio was on its feet. He shook the band leader's hand, who leaned in and whispered something supportive. Jamie smiled, nodded, then turned to leave. "Jamie, wait," Stephen called, finally rising from behind the desk, voice trembling. "Don't leave like this. We can work this out." Jamie turned back once. His expression was calm but firm. "The only thing that needs to be worked out is whatever's broken inside you that made you think this was okay." A long pause. "That's not my job. To fix, that's yours." And with that, Jamie Foxx walked offstage, shoulders back, head height to thunderous, sustained applause. Stephen was left alone behind his desk, flushed and speechless. The cameras kept rolling. The band, improvising now, struck up a soulful jazz number, soft, defiant, full of dignity. Stephen finally sat down, ran both hands through his hair, looked straight into the camera. For a moment, it seemed he might try to explain. Instead, he whispered, "We'll be right back." The screen cut to black. This wasn't just a talk show meltdown. This was a lesson, a warning, a mirror. A moment where the line between ego and empathy was drawn in front of millions. Jamie Foxx walked out of it with his dignity intact, while Stephen Colbert, he was left to face what happens when you let resentment speak louder than respect. What do you think? Did Stephen cross a line? Or did Jamie overreact? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that expose the truth behind the spotlight. Because in Hollywood, the cameras may stop rolling, but the consequences never do.